Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another session of Chamber Chats. I am your host Alfie Rowley, and today we have a very special guest joining us. One of the Queensland Law Society's Regional Practitioners of the Year for 2021 and Legal Practice Director at McNamara Law. Please welcome Rebekah Sanfuentes. Welcome, Rebekah. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, that's quite all right. So can you give us a brief description of what McNamara Law is and what service it provides?
Yeah, sure. We're a local law firm, so we have offices in Ipswich, Springfield and Gatton. And we're a firm that practices in a wide range of practice areas, but all of our solicitors practice exclusively in one area. So we're all somewhat experts in our own field, but a general practice firm.
Okay, so how did you come to work for McNamara Law?
Well, I finished, I had a school-based traineeship when I was in grade 11 and 12 at another firm, and on my last day there, my boss there said to me, go and hand your resumes in around the local areas, that's your last day, try and get a job out of the traineeship basically. So I handed resumes in and McNamara's rang me and I literally had a job interview the same day. Wasn't dressed for a job interview and got in trouble for wearing my Spice Girl shoes to my platforms to an interview. And yeah, I got asked to start on the Monday and I said, I can't, I'm going to schoolies. So I started the Monday after and yeah, I've been there ever since. So that was 20 years ago now.
You must have made one heck of an impression. That must have been such a good impression.
Either that or they were desperate, but you know.
So what is the business's history here in Queensland? Yeah,
so we've literally just this year celebrated our 100 years of service. So we're 100 years old as of 2023. So back in 1923, the firm initially started. There was a couple of different names along the way, McNamara and Associates being the most recent before we became McNamara Law. Yeah, and we've kind of grown with the community over the last 100 years. Yeah,
grown with so it was Springfield initially, was it, or was
No, we actually started in Gatton.
Right, okay.
And then predominantly have been based at Ipswich. Obviously, Springfield didn't exist 100 years ago, so yeah.
So how has McNamara Law grown since its inception in 1923?
Well, it started out, I would expect, I mean, I wasn't around 100 years ago, but I would expect it started out somewhat small, 1 or 2 man band, and yeah, just as the community's grown, like obviously Springfield is an up and coming community and we've opened an office as Springfield was developed, and yeah, just as the community needs us to be more available, we've grown with the times. So yeah, we've now I think got 37 staff.
Wow, okay.
So
it's growing. And so, of course, starting off with schoolies before your interview, you've obviously grown so much since then. So what has your career journey looked like since joining the McNamara team? Yeah,
sure. So I started on reception, was the initial job I took there. I did that for probably 6 to 12 months and was promoted to a secretarial role for one of the partners of the firm at the time. And it was actually all down to him that I even became a lawyer. I had no intention of studying law. I just envisaged my life to be that I would have a job till I got married and then I'd be mum.
Wow.
Stay at home, look after the kids was always just what I thought my life would be, because that's how I grew up. Mum was always at home and that was just what was normal to me. And yeah, Kevin Steed was the partner I was secretary for a long time, and he essentially said I was selling myself short and I should study. So I studied part-time from home. I never stopped working at McNamara's, continued working full-time the whole time. And then, yeah, got admitted as a solicitor. Kevin moved my admission. And yeah, slowly moved my way up the ranks from junior lawyer, associate, senior associate, and now director of the firm. So
that is extremely impressive. I guess it is, the helping hand is what everyone needs. But how has McNamara Law changed over time to keep competitive with other legal teams?
I like to think that other firms change to keep competitive with us, would be my answer to that. But no, I mean, the law is always changing. So we have to adapt with the way we practice dependent on legislative changes and decisions made by judges. But at the same time, you know, you've got to keep competitive insofar as what are other firms charging compared to us. We are probably one of the more expensive firms in the area, but you get what you pay for.
Get what you pay for, I like it.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you so much, Rebekah, for a beautifully put introduction to McNamara Law and the part that you play in it. Now, before we continue to look into the business, we're going to take a little bit of a break. When we return, we will discuss how Rebekah and the team at McNamara Law dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic. So stay tuned and be ready to hear more on this shortly. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chamber Chat. In the last segment, we had the pleasure of hearing from Rebekah Sanfuentes, the Legal Practice Director of McNamara Law, about her journey through the business and the journey of the business itself. Now, in this segment, we delve into an uncomfortable time in recent history that has affected businesses the world over, the COVID-19 pandemic. Welcome back, Rebekah. Thank you so much for joining us. So, how did COVID-19 pandemic affect McNamara Law?
It impacted us from a number of different perspectives. I think firstly was the workload. So with the type of work we do, you know, conveyancing, no one was buying property or selling property at the time. So conveyancing somewhat disappeared for us over that time. Personal injuries, compensation type law, no one was on the roads, so there were no motor vehicle accidents for people seeking compensation from that. No one was at work, so there were no workplace accidents from people seeking compensation from that. So a lot of our practice areas really suffered from a workload perspective. I practice exclusively in wills and estates, so for me, COVID didn't impact on people passing away. That still obviously happened, and if not, more people were affected at the time. You know, you had people taking their own lives because it was such a difficult time. So from a wills and estates perspective, the workload increased. People were also scared that they would die or they would lose capacity. So we had an abundance of people coming in wanting to do wills and powers of attorney to prepare, like nothing like a bit of a virus to scare people into getting their estate plan sorted. So we had to improvise with that and work with that. So certain areas of our practice, some staff got stood down. With a view of that was the way we could secure their jobs. So they went on the government JobKeeper type payment, worked minimum hours, while others were flat strap busy and worked their full-time hours. But by doing that, it was that or people lose their jobs. And so standing 100%. People down was the way that we ensured all our staff kept their jobs through that.
100%. So what were the largest challenges or the most affecting challenges during the pandemic?
Financial challenges aside, for me, probably the biggest challenge was the social distancing. People wanted to come and see their lawyer, people wanted a will, people wanted a power of attorney. Our legislation in Queensland, if you want to do a will, it has to be signed with 2 witnesses present, and there is, you should aim, if possible, to all use the same pen. Because the court can have an impression that perhaps we all weren't there present at the same time if a different pen was used. So it's good practice to use the same pen, but obviously during a COVID pandemic where you have to distance and you shouldn't be passing the same pen around, that made for doing things like wills difficult. The courts and our government caught up and amended legislation temporarily to deal with that. But it was almost a bit too little too late. They amended the legislation almost at the end of the pandemic, not at the beginning or during. So,
But it's stuff like that you don't even think about. But was change necessary to keep the business intact?
Without a doubt, without a doubt. One thing I implemented was drive-through wills because we couldn't be in the same office at the same time. It was against all the rules at the time. So we would take instructions over the phone or Skype or Zoom or something like that, prepare the client's will, go through it with them over the phone or again Skype or Zoom and make sure that they were happy with the content. And then I would literally drive to their house, wind down my window this much, pass the wheel to them. I could watch them witness. We were able to see each other witness through the glass window of the car, and then they'd pass it back through the window and we'd witness.
So was that a personal thing for you, or was that the
No,
entirety
that was just our firm that implemented that, and it really took off. People were asking us, this is so convenient just to step out on our driveway, sign our will and see you later. So a lot of people were hoping we could maintain that after COVID, and we try where we can to assist clients that need home visits, but you know, constantly travelling all day makes it difficult for the clients who need us in the office.
Yeah, 100%. I do apologise about that. Sorry, I kind of had a bit of a mind blank there. So what would you say was one of the biggest challenges that was faced by McNamara Law during the pandemic?
I think the staff, certain staff being put down to reduced hours, that's never nice to have to do that to somebody, and to know that decision impacts on their finances and their income and you know, their families, and that's a really, really difficult thing to do. And in the long run, it was in the best interests of the firm and the staff. But in the short term, it's horrible to have to do that and to have to see staff go through that.
Indeed,
I think that, you know, that ultimately we're a team and we're a family, and we don't like having to do that. So that was without a doubt the most difficult for us.
So it certainly was. Well, thank you so much again for sharing insights into how McNamara Law dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic. It is incredibly heartening to hear how you and the business really traversed one of the most difficult times in recent memory and came out on top. So we'll just take a little bit of a break, so stay tuned for more. Now bringing us into the final segment, I'd like to shift gears a bit by talking a little bit about your involvement with the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce. Now, as a prominent figure in the local business community, I'm curious as to how you initially connected with the Chamber and what benefits you've experienced from being a member.
Yeah, sure. Our firm's always been involved with the Chamber since its inception, being a up-and-coming suburb at Springfield. The Chamber's quite new, I guess, compared to other chambers. So we've been at the Springfield office around the same time that the Chamber has been around. So we've been there from the beginning, and I personally moved to our Springfield office in 2018 and have been more heavily involved with the Springfield Chamber since then.
Right, okay. So how did you actually first become aware of the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce?
To be honest, I couldn't answer that. Everyone knows about the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce. If you're a local business in Springfield, you just know about it. It's, they do some very good networking with all the local businesses, and if you don't know about the Chamber and you're in Springfield, you must be hiding under a rock, because it's a very, very active chamber. You can't not know about Springfield Chamber.
Must be, I mean, we've got a TV show about it, so it must be pretty good. So what were your main motives for joining the Chamber?
I think the main motive for almost every member is networking, to build work, to be able to have somebody in the area you can refer work to build your profile, get your name out there. And it certainly achieves that. They have so many networking events, more than any other chamber that I'm aware of, where just, the local businesses come together and you're all friends. You know, it's not like a colleague or a professional referral. All the members are mates, and it's nice to know you're referring to people you have confidence in, and you get to know who they are and the type of work that they do through all those networking events. So
what drew you towards Springfield in particular? Was there potential that you saw with the area?
Yeah, the growth. We obviously have our office at Ipswich, and we were receiving a lot of work for people based in the Greater Springfield area. So for us, it only made sense to be more local to those people, and hence we opened the Springfield office, and the Chamber, I guess, helped us when we opened our Springfield office, helped us grow in this area. So
okay, so as you said, Springfield is a fairly new area. What would you say sets Springfield itself apart from other areas?
As in the Chamber, the Springfield Chamber, or Springfield in general?
I think just Springfield in area.
Springfield in general. I think it's got a really lovely community feel. Everyone wants to support each other. Everyone seems to know each other. I mean, I live in Greater Springfield area. My kids go to school in Greater Springfield area. I work in the Greater Springfield area. And it's really an area where you can do all of those things, and then you build all these groups from the school and from work and from professional area, and yeah, it's just such a real community that everyone wants to support and help each other.
So it's almost a family within itself. But during the COVID-19 pandemic, how did the Chamber support your business?
They supported businesses. There was a lot of, obviously the networking events couldn't continue during that time because of social distancing, but they still sent out information to businesses on how to cope with the pandemic, how to deal with loss of income, how, social things like, if you're suffering socially, and just information to put people in the right direction as to connections they may be able to make to help them through those difficult times. Mental health courses and things like that. So
very important.
Yeah, they were very good at, while those networking events disappeared, you felt to some extent they still existed in an online way.
Yeah. So we talked a bit before about how you find the Springfield area more of a family, but would you say there's anything in particular that sets the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce apart from any of the other?
Yeah, I think a similar feel. It's a real group of people where everyone knows everyone, everyone is supportive of everyone wants to see each other's business succeed, and everyone helps each other to try and make that happen for each other. I've been a part of other chambers, and it's without a doubt the purpose behind it is networking, but everyone's there for their own networking and building their own business, where the chamber feels like, of course, people want to build their own business, but everyone also wants each other's businesses to build. It's just a lovely feel.
Well, there we go. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Now, we have reached the conclusion of today's episode of Chamber Chats. I would like to give you a huge thank you, Rebekah, for coming in. Now, you've come in from McNamara Law. Thank you so much for sharing insights, your story through COVID-19, all of your expertise. It is absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming in, and we will see you all next time on Chamber Chats.